Good day, beloved. My name is Calvin Reaves. I'm the pastor of my Father's House Ministries and your host. And together we are the voices of the Exodus Project. Beloved, the Exodus Project is a vehicle of opportunity committed to the how to disrupt despair and disease and to provoke healing and bring forth the God-given gift in you. So come on in and let's have a conversation. Today, I have with me a friend of many years. I would say close to 50 years. We came up under the covering and the tutorage of Northside New Era Missionary Baptist Church. At that time, our pastor was N.E. Vincent. And we explored different avenues there. We had the opportunity to film with the Rapture Choir and to be a part of that. And today we have him here, and we're going to let him introduce himself and give you, the viewers, some background on him and just share his Exodus project with us. DeMarcus.
I am Minister DeMarcus Hazelwood. Like he said, we grew up together at Northside New Era Baptist Church, where we ran through what we called the Bat Cave. Back in the days, it was just some background on Northside New Era Church. It was a church that sat up on the hill at 30th and Ethel. And the edifice was built over the basement. And this basement actually was owned, and we purchased it from the Ku Klux Klan. A lot of people didn't even know that or still don't know that until today. But that church was built upon...
That was the first. I didn't know that.
Yes, that church was built.
I didn't know that. Wow.
And purchased from that whole hill, that basement area. Mm-hmm. That was a back escape for them, or a place for them to hide. They used to hold their meetings there.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's what a lot of people didn't know, that the Klan had a very strong base here in Indianapolis. But they did. I attend a church now called the Hope Church in Las Vegas, Nevada. We do a lot of things online as far as my attendance there, my watching the preaching there. My spiritual father, Eugene Staples, who got me into the ministry, was one of the pastors out there.
DeMarcus, again, it's glad to have you here, and thank you for sharing a little information about yourself. But I never knew that about Northside New Era.
Yes.
So, wow, thank you for sharing that. But today I got you here to share your experience and your strength and your hope. As I spoke of it during the intro, the Exodus Project is a vehicle of opportunity, committed to the how to disrupt despair, dis-ease, and to provoke healing, and to pull the God-given gift that's in us. And since I've been back here in the city and talking to you and listening to some of the experiences that you've had while out there, and you know, this podcast is not to glamorize addiction, the lifestyle, you know, but it is to bring energy and hope and healing to that community that is still out there, and to those that have come across that threshold of recovery and sometimes don't know where they are. You know, I based the Exodus project on the book of Exodus itself, and how the children of Israel was brought up out of Egypt, and how they were brought up wealthy. They didn't come out of Egypt broke. And how when we entered our wilderness experience, we look back at our parents coming over here. We was talking about, you made a comment. You said, our fathers paved the way. Bring that back to me.
It was, we were talking about how we're dressed right now.
Okay.
I mean, and we're looking kind of dapper. And I said, we got that from our fathers. Our fathers always, even though my father worked in Chrysler Foundry, which was a factory, when you went inside of there, you was actually working. You looked like you came out looking like you were a coal miner because of the factory dust floating around inside of there. So they had to wear cover-ups and suits and hats and everything else just to keep that foundry dust off of them. But on the weekends and on Sundays when we went to church, we didn't wear blue jeans and stuff like they wear nowadays. We had our shoes shined, suits on, ties on. Even as kids, we had our suits and ties and shoes were shined.
I heard someone use an expression yesterday it was, and they used the expression church shoes. I haven't heard that in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Church shoes. You didn't have that. But thank you for sharing that. But the how to disrupt despair. Let's talk a little bit about that. That H stands for honesty. How did you know? Your honesty. What is your honesty about? How did you know that life was, you were done with it, or you were tired of it? How did you know that? How did you get honest with yourself? What I'm asking.
You want the real truth of that?
Come on with it.
The real truth of that is I had just gotten a good job, had been in trouble a few times. When I say trouble, I mean in jail. But I really, as you say, the Exodus, because in Exodus, they walked away from their bondage, but they were out in the desert. So this was like my desert part of it.
Okay.
And I was still wanting to dabble back in and out, I knew I shouldn't be there, but I wanted to dabble in and out.
Well, that's what the children of Israel wanted to do. They missed their leeks and their onions.
That's why they built the calf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why they built the calf. So actually one day I was walking down College Avenue at 17th Street, and it was a group of guys standing on the corner. And I guess because of the girls in the neighborhood at the time that was on the street, I would just give them money or, talk to them just to get them away from me. I'd give them $10, $15, Didn't mean nothing at the time. Like I said, I had a good job. But these guys said one Thursday night, give us your money. I said, I don't have any money. Dude said, yeah, you do. We already heard about you. And he pulled out this big silver 357 Magnum. And I said, are you for real? He said, I'm realer than, can't say it right now, but he said, I'm realer than that. So about three of them walked me up the street. and basically told one of them go through my pockets, and they knocked me down on the ground. Went through my pockets, got about $300 off of me because like I said, I just got paid. And funny part about it, I didn't even hear the gunshot. But it turns out that I was shot twice in the back of the head at point blank range with a .357 Magnum. One bullet grazed the back of my head. The other bullet went in, missed my spine by 1/4 of an inch, traveled to the left side of my head, exited right under the ear, missed my carotid artery by centimeters, and lodged into my left hand. As I was laying there, everything just turned bright white. I didn't hear anything, I didn't see anything, but I could see the top of my head, my face, and my hands. And the more I looked down trying to figure out where my body is, the white light was hurting my eyes. The best way I could describe the white light is if you took 1,000 white light bulb, put your eye up against it, and tried to see the filament burning inside of it. I mean, it hurt that bad every time I looked down. And my mother had passed like 3 or 4 months before that.
I remember that. I remember your mom passing.
Yeah. And I heard her say, just like I'm talking to you, DeMarcus, get up. DeMarcus, get up. And when she said that, you know how and I'm sure you've been there. You laying in bed because you don't want to go to school, but your mom comes to your door and tells you better get up out of that bed. And you know when she says get up that second time, if your feet are not on the floor,
time to get up. Yeah.
you know what's getting ready to happen to you, right?
Yes.
So I started getting up, and I felt something touch my shoulder, and a female voice said, "Don't move, you've been shot." I said, "My mama told me to get up." And I got up and walked away. So turns out I walked about 2.5 blocks back to 16th Street, and all I could think of is, at that time I didn't have a cell phone, so I knew it was a phone on the corner. And I said, well, at least if I can make it to that phone, I could call for help, because as I was walking down, I felt like I was just sweating. And I looked at my hands, and they were covered in blood. Like, man, where'd all this blood come from? Because like I said, I never heard the gunshot, and I couldn't focus. I didn't see any blood when the girl touched my hand and said, "You've been shot." I'm thinking she's still playing, and I'm trying to figure out where I'm at and what's going on.
So, let me, if I could just fast forward just a little bit. That experience, was that the beginning of your exodus, or did you go back into your Egypt, back into your bondage?
Oh, no. That was it. When I got to the corner of 17th Street, like I said, I was trying to make it to 16th Street because I knew that's where the phone was at. So I was about a block away from there, and all of a sudden I see a fire truck and an ambulance coming behind the fire truck, and I just walked out in the middle of College Street in front of the fire truck. They slammed on the brakes, and fireman jumped out of the passenger side and said, "This must be the guy that was shot. We didn't know where you were. We lucky you here because we were just waiting for somebody to flag us down." He said, "Man, you're lucky." I said, "Luck has nothing to do with this. This is God."
In the book of Exodus, matter of fact, Exodus 2:24, It talked about, so God heard their groanings. So was that your groaning?
If that's what you want to call it.
But, and again, before that happened, before that incident happened, was there a cry out to God to deliver me from this world of addiction?
I mean, yeah, I wanted to get out. I didn't want to go to rehab.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody told me the only way you can get out is to go to rehab.
Okay.
I said, no, that's not the only way to get out. So this was his divine purpose to bring me out. I've always been one of those guys that it's better to show me than to tell me. I mean, even in school, I studied to be a robotics engineer because I could see the numbers. You give me spelling, I got to look at the word and then try to figure out how to spell the word.
Okay.
But as long as I got it in front of me, I can do anything.
Okay. But watch this now. Did you have a struggle? Did you have a struggle, with your coming out? When did you get to that place where you said to yourself, I can't, the honest part of you, I can't do this by myself?
The honest part is when I was shot. I mean, it wasn't anything left to doubt. I mean, I'm shot. I go to the hospital. I stay in the hospital 12 hours in the emergency room, and they actually kicked me out of the hospital. I said, no, you got to put me in a bed. They said, there's nothing we can do for you. You're not hurt. There's no bullet in you. Yeah, it's in your hand, but there's nothing we can do for you. I said, well, sew it up. They said, we can't sew it up. It has to drain. So we have to leave it open. And there's no need of you taking up bed space. Go home.
Okay, now, when they kicked you out of the hospital, all honesty, to ease the pain, I know you was in pain, to ease the pain, to quiet the frustration, did you want to go back and get high?
No.
Okay. So, at that point of, I don't want to get high. I'm not doing that no more. So now you're coming into the open-mindedness of solutions. What did the open-mindedness bring you into? And remember now, we're the how to disrupt despair. So we dealt with the honesty. Now we're dealing with the open-mindedness part of that.
The open-mindedness was, here, my Lord, send me.
Okay.
I knew what I was called to do. I was running from that all along.
Okay. There's a phrase, I've used it, I think 3 times in my life, because I know the significance of it. The last time I used, was it the last time or the second time I used it? It was in 2015. And I'm standing in the doorway of my bedroom in my living room, and I still was having relapse issues. And that statement was, by any means necessary. I told God I didn't know how to surrender. So by any means necessary, bring me into surrender. Whatever it took, on God's terms. That was my open-mindedness. And what I'm hearing is somewhat the same thing with you. You knew what God was calling you into, had already called you into. How many years did you run?
I don't know. My mother said at 5 and 6 years old, I used to come home because she babysat. She said, On Monday mornings when the kids would come back for her to babysit, I would line them up on the steps of the porch and pretty much so preach what Reverend Vincent had said on Sunday to the kids on the steps.
Okay.
At 5 and 6.
Okay.
I don't even remember doing that.
Okay.
But I mean, it started way back then.
Okay.
You know, the calling has been on me from the day I was born. My grandmother was ill. I was born in February. They brought me straight from the hospital, straight to her, put me in her arms, and she said, this child is going to do great things. And in March, she died. A few weeks after I was born. I was born the 18th of February, and she died a couple of weeks later. But she told my mother this would be the last child that would be born, and she's going to stay here to see her last grandchild. And that's what she did. So she put that on me way back then, before I even knew it was on me. I didn't know anything about it.
So your open-mindedness brought you into surrender. Safe to say.
Pretty much. So, yeah. Because, I mean, I knew from the stories that my family had told me, I knew what was going on. I knew what my aunt or my grandmother had said. I knew what my aunt told me about my grandmother and the way she was. And they even thought it was very strange that she literally stayed until I was born and came home and said, I'm ready to go now. And a few weeks later, she was gone.
Now, you know, one of the strange things about surrender that I found, and that surrendering was to the idea and to the truth that God can. You know, I can't, he can, now let him. So realizing that you...
Well, I will put it this way, Calvin. I believe in the I will, and the will of God.
Okay.
Every time I set out to do anything personally, when it was just me trying to do it, I always failed. When I said, even trying to attempt to do the same thing, I said, okay, I know I got to put God first. I know God got to be in the midst of this. And I will let God take control.
Okay.
But as soon as I found out or thought I knew where God was taking me,
Okay.
I stepped before God.
Yeah.
I stepped before the will of God.
Right.
Still didn't work.
Right. You hold it right here. I'll get back with you.
Yeah.
Right.
I got this. I know where we're going. I got it now. I see what you're doing.
Okay.
But no.
So during the open-mindedness to God can, now we're going to jump into the willingness. What was your drive for the willingness to continue? What is your drive for the willingness to continue on this journey?
My drive is, I don't want to be in a pulpit or really sit in a pulpit or preach or run a church or nothing like that. You know, the Bible says the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. I'm one of those, I want to be in the highways and byways. I want to be out there. I want to, like I said, I do things better by hands than I do by book.
Okay.
You know, I want to be out there. I want to be in the midst of. So that's me. That's my calling, and that's where I want to be.
You know, Exodus 6:17 says, I will take you as my people, and I will be your God, and you shall know that I am the Lord your God, who brings you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. Coming out of the burden, coming up from up under the burden of addiction. For me, it like allowed me to, it cast a light on my life in a whole. I could see me. Matter of fact, it allowed me to see why I even went that way. Okay. And I'm going back to that question, the willingness. What's keeping you on this journey right now? What's keeping you from going back? Point blank, what's keeping you from going back? If you could look out here to the viewers and you can give them something of great significance of why not to go back, not to remember the leech, not to want to go back to the onions and
what's back there? I mean, there was nothing back there. Heartache, being broke, not having. I mean, think of, like they say all the time, write down all the things you don't have, write down the things you have, and put the two together and see what you got. I mean, I didn't have money. I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't have this. But now I got. I got this. I got a place to stay. I'm stable. I'm satisfied. I'm happy. And what most people don't understand about being happy, I'm happy being by myself.
You know, and I'll say this before we close. I always had this drive for a great love affair, and drugs was my first love. Drugs was my first love. I tasted sex before drugs. I tasted girlfriends before drugs, but I tasted the effect of drugs. And I felt in my head they were always there for me. They made me feel just how I wanted to feel. And I remember when I really got serious about getting sober, and that statement takes me into Jeremiah 29, when Jeremiah speaks from God and said, when you get serious about finding me, you'll find me and I won't disappoint you. And I was in a long-term treatment center, and after 45 days, you had to write a letter, a goodbye letter to your drug of choice. And at that time, my drug of choice was cocaine. It took me longer than 45 days to write this letter because that was my first love. And I remember when I wrote it, it was like I had to cover it. I had to keep it hidden. I couldn't let nobody know I was in love with this thing like this. And I remember going out back. It was in Memphis, Tennessee, and I stood between two huge generators. And I read it, and I cried. I had to walk away from a love, something that I was in love with, but it didn't love me.
Exactly.
And my willingness, what gives me the will today to keep going forward, is that if there is, for some reason or the other, I find out that there is not a God, and audience, I'm speaking to you on this too. If I find out that there is not a God and there is not a heaven, me following the word of God and the truth of God allowed me to walk in the transformative power of it. And it was all worth it. It was all worth it. Today, as DeMarcus, I live free today. You know, I have a love that's, wow, I can't explain it. I'm in a relationship with a God that I know that is real, because again, to walk in the transformative power of it, yeah, there's nothing in my history that I can go back to that will give me what I have today. So DeMarcus, I thank you, man, for sharing your experience, your hope, and your strength. Sometimes it's not easy to talk about that Exodus. And one of the reasons the word project came about is because it is an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing thing with great rewards.
Definitely.
So thank you for being a part of the Exodus Project today.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Beloved, again, here we are at the end of another episode. We thank you for traveling with us. And until next time, we'll see you at the Exodus Project.